Good evening, everyone. So, what is an accent? An accent is the unique and individual way that we use our language. This can be affected by the region we live in, the country we live in, or even our socio-economic grouping. Our accent is our identifier. In fact, it is probably a more powerful identifier than race or ethnicity. In Harvard, Catherine Kinsler conducted a few experiments around accent and language. And what she found was that children as young as 6 to 7 months old can recognize language and dialect. One of her experiments was on two young toddlers, and they were of different ethnicities, and two adults of different ethnicities. The adults had a toy each, and they offered them to the children. And what they found was that the children went straight to the person who looked most like them. In other words, belonged to the same ethnic grouping. Now, when they added language, something different happened. It was the same two children, the same two adults, and I think the same two toys. I could be wrong. This time, the adults verbally invited the children to accept the toys. This time, the children went to the person who most sounded like their families. So, you see, accent prejudice probably starts at a very young age, but this is not a bad thing. This is actually intentional in development, because at this stage of development, the child seeks out those who sound and look most like them. This provides security and safety. The negative prejudice, where accent is concerned, comes later and is very often associated with societal influences. It could be history, it could be colonialism. Received English, more commonly known as the Queen's English, has an association with elitism and royalty and power. I remember one of my first language students. I had just begun teaching. It was during the dying days of the elocution teacher, and the speech teacher was being born and developed. The CEO of a group asked me if I would help him with an employee of his. This employee had a very strong inner city Dublin accent. And what the CEO wanted me to help him with was to change that accent, or to modify it, to sound more like a business accent. As I said, it was the dying days of the elocution teacher. And at that point, we're talking about the late 70s, early 80s, it was quite acceptable to consider your accent as something that you had to polish or change in order to gain that desired position. Let's call this student number one. He was 20. On his first visit to me, he was so casual, he was bubbly, full of chat, and really excited about what his future held for him. His CEO told me that this young man had great potential in the business world, but he felt that his accent would hold him back. What proof he had of this, I'm not quite sure. So we began with 1 2-hour session a week. Very soon, the CEO realized the enormity of the challenge, and he asked me to actually up it to 2 2-hour sessions a week, which I did. I pulled out all the stops. I taught him about vowel sounds, consonant sounds, inflection, pitch, modulation, the whole works. I recorded his voice over and over and over again. He listened to it over and over and over again. He listened to people who were considered to have the ideal business voice or accent. He worked really, really hard, not only during the sessions. He was so serious and committed to what he was doing, but he also faithfully did all the exercises that I suggested he do at home during the week, in between the sessions. Several months went by, and one day, student number 1 arrived for his lesson. He was dressed in a dark businessman suit and tie. His hair was coiffed to within an inch of its life. And he had the poise of a successful businessman. He had been transformed completely, Pygmalion-like. And I realized that I was complicit in this transformation. It didn't sit that well with me. The one thing I was proud of was that his speech was crystal clear. His articulation was perfect. But this acquired accent, it divorced him from his background, from his family, and actually made him a stranger in his community. This day was my road to Damascus, my conversion, if you like. It was then, and I'm glad it was that early on in my career, that I decided my vision would not include changing people's accents. My vision was going to be creating clear speech and a respect for diversity. So, does an accent hinder communication? No, it doesn't. Not at all. In fact, it aids it because it tells the people you are speaking to something about you. It is your authentic accent. The only time an accent can be a bit of a hindrance is when that accent is coupled with a fast pace in speech. Now, this is a hindrance. A slower pace, regardless of your accent, will allow the listener to decode your accent. And that doesn't matter what type of accent you have. It could be D4, Dublin 4. It could be Liverpool. It could be Cork. The slower the pace, the easier it is to be understood. A lot of you know that I am teaching English as a foreign language internationally at the moment. And you know what is the thing I enjoy the most, apart from learning about the different cultures? The thing I enjoy the most is listening to English being spoken clearly and correctly with a foreign accent. It just adds color and life to the language. And if a language is living, it does have to change. It can't all be the same. So Accents are important. Enjoy your accent, and especially those of others. Give them a chance to speak English. If anyone is interested in anything I've covered over these short talks, please feel free to get in touch with me. You know, voice and language for me is so important. I am so passionate about it. I don't want it to be something, or at least it shouldn't be something that divides us. It shouldn't be our Tower of Babel. We need to use it to come together and enjoy our diversity. Thank you for listening, everybody. Enjoy the weekend, and I will see you the next time. Thank you. Bye.